Here we are. We are live with the Reverend Dallas Conyers. Hi. Coming to us from South Carolina.
Yeah.
How is the weather there?
Wet and cold. Totally
Yeah.
want my moving expenses back. This is not what I signed up for moving to the South.
Aren't a bunch of hurricanes going through there and everything from time to time?
Yeah, but I'm more western part of South Carolina. I'm in a geographically advantageous spot when it comes to
But it's just it's snowing in Las Vegas right now. I'm in Southern California, and it's 99% of the time it's sunny and beautiful. And this morning I took my dog for a walk, and I was trying to record a thing just to see if it even the wind is just killing me. But the waves were crazy. Everyone's taking videos of the waves because we're just not used to it being that crazy. Yeah. Anyway, hello.
Hey.
well, I guess that will tie into climate change, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But Dallas and I went to Brooklyn Tech together. Yes, 2001 class of. Well, you don't want me to age you?
No need to date 20 years. I mean, come on now.
It's our 20-year anniversary or reunion, not anniversary, whatever.
I'm sending this broadcast to nobody now. It's official.
That's okay. Hey, we're doing good for 20 years of out of high school. I think we'll see how the reunion goes. If there is one, it's virtual or I don't know. We had 800 something kids in our class. I think that made it. I think we started with 1,200 from what I recall, and we made it to 800 something graduated. So I don't know if you can do a Zoom with 800 people as a reunion.
We can try. I've heard of them. They have a package up to 1,000. Let's do this. Why not?
That's gonna be a whole hectic thing. But hey, yeah, why not? So let's touch base. Let's circle back. Tell us a little bit about your story. Again, how we connected recently, and realized we have some things in common, and said let's get on a recording and talk. So tell me a little about what you've been up to.
Yeah. So, wow. So, like he said, I went to school with Bo, right? And I'm not going to call out your entire last name because that's Babenko. We called him Babenko, right?
No, well, I was Bobo and
Bobo, right?
Bobo.
And and so we went to school. So of course I'm seeing him on Facebook every so often. And he's like, yo, getting my doctor of physical therapy. And I'm like, that makes so much sense for you. Like, I knew you in high school, so it's going to be weird to call you doctor, but the field and the level of expertise definitely matches. So that's actually where it started out for me. And circling back to this point, because at that time I was severely chronically ill and disabled. I had gotten into a car accident. It highlighted and activated 3 genetic diseases in my body at the same time. It took...
What year was that?
That was in 2011.
Okay.
So, but before that, I had been chronically ill from various autoimmune diseases. And so I'm really watching my Brooklyn Tech friends, right? Because I went to a college for arts, so they're useless. But I'm watching my Brooklyn Tech friends, and I'm like, who's a doctor? Somebody needs to help me because these doctors are doing nothing for me, and my body's constantly falling apart. And so I just watched you. And as I went on my own health journey, because doctors continue to be largely useless, telling me stupid stuff like, yeah, we found something on your scans, but that can't be it. Well, does it match my symptoms? Yeah, but that's not it. And that was 9 months after the accident. Then they found another one 3 years after the accident. And then they found the last genetic disease a full 6.5 years later. And by then I had been to so many neurosurgeons. I had been getting pressured to have brain surgery this whole time. One of my neurologists had started giving me psychotropic and antidepressant medications because he was of the opinion that because he didn't know what was wrong with me, that I was imagining it and I was psychosomatic. And it took me going to one more neurosurgeon who had actually studied the little paragraphs, because the conditions I have aren't common. and have been very much so neglected in terms of study and research until recent years. And he gave me information that really ties in to nutrition, physical therapy, but more than anything else, posture. So yeah, so definitely was keeping my eyes on Dr. Bobenko. Yeah.
Get that posture up. Very cool. Yeah, I'm always, and that's the thing too with being online and putting myself out there. I think a lot of times I don't even know who's watching, what effect it's having, and sometimes down the line I hear these, and again, that's why I'm going to keep doing it. And even if I help, one person with each post or whatever it is, it really is rewarding. And to your point, I'll add, yeah, again, that's kind of my brand is Fit Care Physio that I've recently kind of adapted, and it's just a alternative to the healthcare space because healthcare is broken in this country. It's good for somewhat keep alive. I don't know that beep through. No, did you hear a beep? No, that's just me. Okay,
it interrupted. Yeah, but go ahead.
Okay, I don't know where that's coming from or how to get rid of that. But anyway, so anyway, what I'll say is yes, the healthcare system is set up to keep you alive, to keep you moving, but it's hard to go past that, especially when you get, oh wow, like you got a lot going on, and let alone like who is going to talk to you about eating and all these things. So phenomenal that you eventually found some solutions there. But yeah, it's a crazy system that we're in, and we can certainly touch on some of that stuff. But let's go to the kind of the we're doing 3% better. So 3 things that we're going to learn from the Reverend is, first one, tell us a little more about what you practice as a Reverend and interfaith as a term. The concept is simple enough, but like I want to know a little more about why it's a concept that exists and like tell us more about that, because I love the concept on the surface level for sure, but yeah, tell us a little more about that.
I love that. Okay, so interfaith confuses people, right? They're like, especially people who are non-Christian and they've dealt with hateful Christians, they're like, aren't you supposed to like discard and be mean to everybody who's not Christian? And I'm just like, no, that's not what it says at all. Actually, it says you're supposed to love everybody. And in my personal opinion, we all worship God, right? Even the polytheistic God beliefs have like this hierarchy of, demigods to like supreme God, right? So I believe that we just all worship the same God, but with different names because we speak different languages and we have evolved from different cultures and different climates and, different conditions. So we have these different ways that we celebrate God based upon the way we had to live due to our climate and the availability of food and water and sunlight, right? And then, because we're all just like really, really complicated plants, food, water, and sunlight. So interfaith means it welcomes all beliefs to work together for a common good, which is what most faiths talk about. And in that working together for a common good, we have to weave our beliefs and our willingness to believe in one another and believe for one another and not allow anybody who is not of that faith to be left behind. Now, a big sticking point that most people don't understand is that interfaith also includes people who don't necessarily believe in God, because that is in it of itself a faith belief. You have no faith is just the absence of a belief in a supreme being. But many people who don't believe in God believe in themselves as the God of their own manifestation in life. So we welcome everyone who wants to work within their belief of activating through what gives them strength, confidence, and direction to create a better world for everybody. And that's interfaith.
Amazing. I like it. Thank you for breaking it down like that. Yeah, I mean, again, I've heard the term before. And tell me a little more about, so you're in South Carolina, you're practicing. Tell me a little about that setup. You mentioned it's a Baptist. You're a Christian and Baptist.
Yeah. So we have
not that we're here to label people.
No, it's okay. It's cool. It's cool.
I just want to understand a little more.
Yeah, so I'm Christian, and quite technically, we are all very, very wrong when we go into denominations, because the Bible literally says that there's one God one word, one Christ, right? And if you try to separate, like there's whole chapters about this. If you try to separate yourself and call yourself by another name, then you are wrong and you're being disrespectful to the memory and the work of Christ. It's like really super simple. So all of this denomination stuff, I'm just like, what happened was I was actually non-denominational in college because I wasn't anywhere near saved or religious before college. And I just started going to church on campus, and it was non-denominational. I was cool. And then when I got called to ministry, I got called to a particular church, and it just happened to be Baptist. And it's not that I just adopted what they were like, yeah, I'm Baptist now. No, I actually went through the study of what Baptist tenets mean. I made sure that what it means to be Baptist, which is to be baptized in water, like immersed in water, not sprinkled, that it is actually biblically sound. And that was it. I was like, okay, so I can accept what this is. This is the church that God has called me to and placed me under the leadership of Dr. McDaniel, which is my pastor. And I like everything about it. So I'm good with this. And that's
awesome.
That's it.
That is it.
Cool. You said I say that too.
I call it out on that one, but yeah, that's very cool. The only time I've ever been in South Carolina, by the way, was for my college roommate. Actually, you might remember a classmate of ours from Brooklyn Tech, Carlos Trinidad. He was you remember him?
Yes. Is he in South
Carolina? No, but he was my freshman year college roommate at Wagner College in Staten Island, and he only was there for a year, and then he switched to the Marine Corps. So he went to Paris Island in South Carolina, and I drove down with his girlfriend and some of his family members, and we drove all the way down from Staten Island, I guess, at the time. And that's the only time I've ever been that I can recall in the state of South Carolina. And I love traveling around, but that's the only time I've been in South Carolina. So I'll have to make my way back when some of this COVID stuff is a little, oh, Carlos is watching. Look at that.
Hi. How you doing?
There you go. Look at that. So funny story there. So yes, moving right along. That brings me to, and I think you mentioned being in South Carolina. You're there because, yeah, his boot camp graduation. That's what I said. I said, yeah, Paris Island boot camp graduation. Love you too, buddy. All right. And I think he's in Ohio now, the last I checked. Anyway, so we're moving on to the environmental and farming, because when I spoke with, and Frederica also from our class saying hi, a lot of tech. By the way, I've had this is my 10th episode or something that I'm doing, and like you're my 6th tech guest. So I think I have a bias there for sure. So
we're better people.
Carlos is in Pittsburgh now, for anyone wondering. And not watching on Facebook, so we'll shout that out. So anyway, environment, South Carolina. When we reconnected more recently, you mentioned one of the things you do has to do with land, and I was just like, you mean like grounding, where you're touching the earth? And there's a couple theories around connecting with the earth. And I'm wearing my Live Life DNA grounded shirt there. I'll show. And that's one of my buddies, one of my best friends' companies called Osman, which is an island term. Are you familiar with that term? Osman? No? It's like true to life. If you've spent time in the islands, he tells me this is a thing. He's from Barbados. But anyway, I wanted to support and shout him out.
I need one of those.
Yeah. He's got some really cool stuff, and they have some cool masks and everything for the time. But yeah, he just started out, so I'm definitely gonna link him somewhere, but AS_MANN, and I'll put that out there somewhere. But environment, fasting, or grounding and farming. Let's talk about that, how that connects to you, a little bit of that journey, and let me know what is going on there.
Okay. Fasting is a part of that too, but that's a different thing. So environment. So what I realized is, I said I was always chronically ill growing up. What I didn't realize at the time was, and nobody realized, was that the housing development that I lived in when I was younger, meaning pre-high school, was built on top of an old garbage dump and right next to an active garbage dump, like within a mile. We could walk to the new garbage dump. So I had constant bronchitis, anything right in here. I had the itis every year for about 8 months out the year. My stomach was constantly upset, and it was just a lot of stuff. Then in high school, I moved, and I stayed between Bedford-Stuyvesant and Flatbush. And at the end of high school, I developed, not the end, about sophomore, junior year, I developed moderate severe asthma. Now, you remember those tech stairs, right?
Hard
Like,
to forget them.
yeah. So
There were a lot of them. For those not familiar, I'll tell them real quick, is one of the largest buildings probably you'll see, but it was 9 stories, including you could have class in the basement. There were elevators, but very limited. If somebody had like broken a leg or something, you have to have the note. And you might have to, I forget how long it was, but if between second and third period, I think you get like 4 minutes or whatever it is, and you might have to go from the basement to the 7th floor or something like that. So, although 7th floor was the lunchroom, I think.
Yeah.
So never mind. But
I had a situation that was close to that. I had a class from the basement to the 6th floor that I had to make in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of one semester, I started out taking those stairs double time, right? Because I was in shape. I was a big little girl, but I was in shape. Like, I was built like a racehorse. So I could make it up those stairs in less than 2 minutes. I mean, I would run up those flights of stairs. Then in the middle of the semester, my grades started dropping on my classes. All of a sudden, I'm falling asleep more than usual, right? Because we all knew I was a nodder. But now I'm like, I'm hardcore sleep, right? And it would happen after I went up from the basement. I would get to the 6th floor, and I would just knock out in speech class. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on. I'm confused. I'm hurt. My grades are tanking. My mental self-esteem is tanking with them because I was all about being smart. And it turned out that my lung capacity had decreased so low that the doctor said if I had been another week, after months of going to doctors and being asked if I was on drugs, if I was pregnant, if I was sexually active, they finally did a scan of my lungs and said, you were a week away you were passing out. You weren't falling asleep, and you would have died in class one day. So I mention all of that because now through my climate work, I understand that the air quality in Flatbush, Brooklyn, and Bedford-Stuyvesant is some of the worst air quality in the US. So I had that rapid onset of development of moderate severe, right below severe asthma, because I moved from one location to the next. So I went from garbage fields that were causing hormonal disruptions and chemical imbalances in my body that have made my immune system shaky and weak, to going to where my air quality was shutting down my lungs. So I go out of, I'm still living in the Flatbush area. So my air, because they didn't tell me the air quality was a problem. They just said you have asthma. I go through work, doing terrible. I take this weird test. It's like, find out what your micro allergens are. And I'm like, whatever works, right? And it worked. It was like, my doctors are like, that's so fake. It's a placebo effect. And I'm like, I'll take this placebo effect over everything that has not been working with you, right? My hair started growing back. My skin started clearing up. I'm in my mid-20s now. My feet aren't swelling up to the size of balloons and turning red as lobsters at the middle and end of every day. And I can function again. Then I get in this major car accident, and I wind up moving down to South Carolina, and I'm in bed most of the time. It took me a few years to be able to walk again. I'm getting to the point. All of a sudden, I warned you about this. All of a sudden,
tell your story.
My lung problems were a lot less frequent. So I was still having stomach issues. I was still having like a lot of the other issues, and I was always in pain, but that's whatever. That was life for me. But my lungs are clearing up just because I moved, and it was like, okay, that's fine. And then I noticed that when I started drinking bottled water, I started feeling a lot better. Come to find out a couple of years later, Spartanburg's water is totally suspect. Don't drink the stuff anymore unless it's like heavily filtered.
Which water?
Spartanburg, my county.
In South Carolina?
So it turns out that over 80% of the counties, so think larger than your city, over 80% of over 88 counties in the US have water quality as bad as Detroit's water system is, or worse, especially any place in a Native American reservation. So I'm not surprised at all that my water quality is that bad.
Well, ironically, New York City tap water is some of the best water on earth. Ironically.
Yeah, ironically. Right, because you would think with all the stuff going on, but the reservoir system has been pretty much kept intact, and the pipe systems get remodeled. And that's where a lot of the problems lie, in the outlying areas of the country. It's not so much that the water filtration, the infrastructure, right? So they love to talk about Spartanburg's water, and they love to pull that water and say, test it right now. And I'm like, no, test it when it gets to my sink after it goes through your pipes.
Yes.
So I get involved in all this climate and health stuff. I start doing all this research. It's like, eat organic. I'm like, I can't afford organic. I'll grow organic. And I go to school for agriculture. Right. And I learn even more. And then one of my agricultural classes talking about harvesting. And they talked about overharvest. What do you do with it? You ferment it. Dude, fermenting? What's that? It's steam. Yeah, but it's really good for you. You know what? And this is what the teacher told us. She said, I've heard of people autoimmune diseases being cured with ferments. And the fermented foods bioavailability of these nutrients is 600 to 700 greater than eating raw or cooked foods.
Yeah. Because for anyone who doesn't know what bioavailability is it? I'll jump in there and say the term "you are what you eat" is not always true. It has certain validity to it, but you are what you absorb. So a lot of people, whether it's the food is not bioavailable, meaning it's available to be absorbed. So even if you're eating the best quality steak or vegetable in the world, your body may not be able to absorb it because your guts and there's leaky gut syndrome and irritable bowel syndrome, all these different things where your body's not able to comprehend that. Or the alternative is the other way. The food you're putting into your body does not have the nutrients, or if certain foods absorb better if you combine them with other foods. So even when people talk about vitamin D3, that's a very common thing that I think a lot more people are aware of. COVID brought some of that to light. A lot of folks who had worse results when they did get COVID had significant vitamin D3 deficiencies. So one of the things that helps absorb vitamin D3 is it's fat soluble. So you should be taking it in with some kind of fat. It allows your body to absorb it better, as well as vitamin K2, which is mostly found in natto. And now you want to talk about fermentation. It's fermented soy. It's supposedly one of the worst smelling things on earth.
In the world.
In the world. I've never smelled it. Have you had it or?
Of course I have.
So we'll jump ahead to the fact that you're a vegan, and vegans have limited food options. So.
No, we don't. What? What? No. There's over 30,000 edible plants in this world. Okay, there's no limit if you can find it or grow it.
All right. We'll get to that fight in a bit. Let's go back to your water.
No, but let's go back to the fact what you said about the nutrients just aren't in the food, and the reason why it's not in the food is because we've killed our soil.
Yes, and I will jump in and say one more thing about that, and that's another one that I often working with clients. Magnesium is significantly missing from almost everyone I talk to, work with, and we sleep worse. We don't have magnesium, and it's because the soil has been depleted so much throughout our agricultural, the things that are bringing us the food. The soils have been so depleted of specifically magnesium is one of the biggest ones that we are missing. So very important to understand that concept and understand when to supplement and there's so many forms of magnesium also. So I will say that real quick. Back to you.
No, yeah, I like magnesium selenate, right? So what you want to understand about the soil, though, is that it's not a natural process that we strip the soil. It's totally being unnatural in our growing practices. We like to spray chemicals that literally kill this bacteria that our internal systems need. So what Bo was talking about was the fact that you actually are supposed to be symbiotic, like living in partnership with this bacteria. It's supposed to be a part of your soil life that gets taken into your body when you're cooking and eating your food. And it's supposed to help you digest and build other enzymes that help you digest your food. But because we have put so many chemicals on our soil to kill everything, it also killed the bacteria that we need to leave. And because our food is stripped of actual nutritional value, either through lack of nutrition in the soil and or because they have now created cultivars of specific food for pest resistance and disease resistance, they actually knowingly lowered the nutritional value of your food. So you have people who are like, I need to keep eating, and they don't understand why. It's because their brain is literally telling them your stomach is full, but you're not satiated, which is when your body is full of the nutrients it needs. So now you're taking in food that you literally can't break down. Like you don't have the components to do it. And you're pooping out all the good stuff.
and the term that comes up, and it's constantly in my, thought processes when discussing health and everything, is we are the most overfed and yet undernourished society and timeline in history, pretty much. And that includes the fact, and the scary statistic is the generation of children right now is the first one that is expected to have a shorter life expectancy than the previous generation. The first time that's ever happened in history, as the advances that we've made in all the other medicines and things like that are finally kind of catching up. So we're hitting an interesting critical mass of what we're talking about here. And back to the bacteria. For those that aren't aware of this concept, your gut microbiome, which is a term you might hear about probiotics, prebiotics. You might do a little dance like
I'm rubbing my belly.
You're rubbing your belly. And they say it's the second brain. They say also that there's more bacteria in your gut than there are cells in the rest of your body. Sometimes I think we can play around with math in some ways, but the point is, it's very important. And back to your fermentation point, have you heard of the 4Ks?
No, tell me the 4Ks.
It's an easy way to remember the top 4 fermented foods. Ironically, all start with K: kombucha, kefir, kimchi, and then kraut, as in sauerkraut. So I guess sauerkraut doesn't start with K, but it fits into the Ks. 4K. So that's one that's if folks aren't incorporating any of those, again, I generally say it's something worth looking into, seeing what you can get into your daily kind of routine to some extent. There's a lot more to it. You might need to start healing your gut before you start fermenting, because sometimes that can cause bacterial overgrowth, which is a common thing, especially in women. Sibo is the term there, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. There's also fungal overgrowth. There's all sorts of stuff. The body's complicated. That's why we need many years of schooling and doctorates to figure it all out. But anyway.
Yeah, I had Methane Sibo, which is commonly known as IBS, right? Yeah. That's when your IBS, it leans more towards constipation. You take it in and don't go out. Right. Then there's hydrogen-based SIBO. That's the one where you're more likely to have diarrhea as a result of your IBS. That's the one where Dr. Bo is saying you probably want to do some gut healing through mild foods and non-heavy, dense fiber foods to allow your gut to kind of relax for a bit. And then you can start taking ferments. And I would recommend starting with kombucha as opposed to a food ferment. Because it passes through your system a little bit quicker, and those bacteria stay in your system and proliferate a little bit more naturally than a food ferment, which has all that nice fibrous material to hang out on and proliferate on.
Yeah. And that's where, again, a lot of general medicine doctors might not be able to have these conversations with you.
They certainly couldn't with me.
Unfortunately, yeah. And again, it's seeking out a lot more information. It's a very confusing field. Functional medicine, which is an emerging field, and I've met many really, really high quality functional medicine doctors. The initial cost can seem very expensive, but think about how much, again, if you find the right person, and maybe you just need to understand that value. Again, I tell people, I might charge $200 an hour for what I do for a consult, and they're like, "Whoa, that's expensive, and my insurance will pay for this." Like, I'm not going to pay $200 out of pocket, but I'm like, 1 hour with me is probably going to be better than 20 hours through your insurance, like, because we're going to cover so much more. It's one-on-one. You don't have to travel. Like right now, we're doing everything virtual, even if you have telehealth. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about myself, but the point is, back to the fermented concept and everything like that. It's got to be individualized. It's got to be customized. You have to find that person who's going to look at your entire body and everything, stress levels. Again, what is your, I mean, look, and again, like the whole connection to nature, that's where I'd love for you to expand a little bit more, environment, all these concepts where, again, some of it can come across to most folks as very like woo-woo-y. And some people just are like, you know, I'm not going to move out to the country. I'm not going to leave my, you know, whatever Wi-Fi home. I'm not going to block EMF signals everywhere because they're causing me stuff. You know, like it gets into, again, like, you know, it gets all, but it goes, and it's tough to have science to prove some of these things. That doesn't mean it's not accurate. That doesn't mean it's just placebo. And you know, so I want to throw in some justifications to some of this stuff. But yeah, tell me more of what you do, what you practice, what you are working around. So yeah, let's throw it back to you.
Okay, so early 20s, I had already been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, IBS, and top-rated GERD, and the asthma, and degenerative disc disease, and a little bit of arthritis. I can't hear you. You're still on mute.
Can I jump in on a few things? Right? Yeah, I muted myself.
You just let me talk.
I just want to say two things right there, just two, about what you just said. So one, degenerative disc disease has actually been dubbed by numerous associations to be that we shouldn't ever use that term.
Yeah.
So it's very debilitating and it sounds very scary. And it's the same thing as saying like you have wrinkles on your face. We definitely need to treat those wrinkles or you're going to die. Like it's bad. So degenerative disc disease, one, I think it's very important that people understand if they have that diagnosis, if anyone listening, watching out there has that and has been told they have that, come talk to me. It's not, it might be, but it's something that we should look at and whatever, you know, I don't want to totally poo-poo it. And the other one that you mentioned, fibromyalgia, I've had really good success treating people who come to me with fibromyalgia, and this has been pretty well documented in the research to say get stronger and get more awareness of your body. Fibromyalgia, for those not aware, again, very common, much more common in women, but it's a little ambiguous how you diagnose it. It's not like, oh, your blood work showed this, boom, you have that, or we did an X-ray and you have this. It's a little more nebulous and everything like that. And again, it's not to say it doesn't exist by any means. I don't want to, yeah. But bottom line is, anyone who has gone through the process and been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, there is hope. And again, I'm looking forward to your story of how you kind of got past a lot of those things. But B, it is cleaning up, and you know, there's a lot of inflammation that goes on in the body. Things I assume we're going to talk about here. But again, getting stronger, getting more awareness and ownership and confidence of your body, to me, solves so many things. So, you know.
So I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that.
Back to you. Sorry.
So
I can't help myself.
Early 20s, mid 20s, I have just as many pills that I'm supposed to be taking every day as I have as my age, right? And they're increasing with my age. And I was just like, this is not working. The pills are not working. They seem to be making me worse. So I'm stopped taking the pills. I was miserable. I was, you know, like I said, breakouts, swellings, losing my hair, not feeling cute, get hit, laid up in the bed. And I start going outside because what else can I do? Can't walk anywhere. So I go outside and I sit there and I'm feeling better just being in the sun. Then I start playing in like buckets, right? And I plant like this one gorgeous head of cabbage, right? And Napa cabbage, which is what you use for kimchi. And just every time I went and was just on my knees in the dirt and just, you know, digging in the dirt, because I didn't have like traditional garden supplies, I would feel rejuvenated after. And so then flash forward a couple of years, it took about 4 or 5 years. I get this diagnosis because I had been from one good neurosurgeon, Dr. Patel, MUSC, If you got some strange stuff going with you, don't tell him I sent you, because I send everybody there. He's probably tired of me, but he's the one who diagnosed me with my third thing that explained all of my symptoms, because all these years doctors have been trying to give me brain surgery, saying outright that the things that were most problematic for me, which was absolutely no energy, like I would sleep for 13 hours a day, get up for a half hour or so and be exhausted and be in bed for 4 hours and wind up going to sleep by the fifth hour. Waking up and then going back to sleep. Like everything exhausted me. I was having severe spasmicity. So I would look like I was having seizures, but I was still fully conscious, and I was able to talk to people, but I wasn't able to complete school because schools would literally kick me out because they didn't want to deal with the liability of me having these seizure-like occurrences during class and having to call ambulances, even though I told them not to call ambulances. And I was dealing with loss of gait, right? So even if I wasn't spasming, my legs would give out on me and I would suddenly not be able to walk for maybe hours, maybe days. It just varied. And I graduated with some economics. I mean, I went to a technical high school, but even though I did all that math and I was in the financial field before the accident, I was having trouble adding 2 + 3. So extreme brain fog. So I had extreme brain fog, very, very low energy, spasmosity, and I forget the other one, but it was a big one. And I started going to school for agriculture. I literally had a friend who had to carry me from class to class some days, but I went to school and my teachers were just working with me to complete assignments, sometimes late, and just ignoring me when I started spasming in class. It was very kind, though. And so as I'm spending more time out in the garden for the hands-on classes, I noticed that my body was getting stronger. Then I went to India to get my yoga license as directed by the spirit. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to become a yoga instructor. I can't even walk every day, but I went. And during that time, my spasm-like symptoms stopped. I had one severe set of spasms during the time that I was in training. But after that, I literally didn't have another major spasm until last year after I got hit by a car again. I got rear-ended again. Then, but I still had the brain.
Are you the one driving? Because like
I get rear-ended, Bo. I've gotten rear-ended.
Okay. I'm not blaming.
Stoplights. I've gotten rear-ended twice at stoplights and once in traffic. So I'm not even getting rear-ended because I'm going too slow. I'm getting rear-ended when I'm sitting still lawfully. So yeah, my brother just said, maybe you need to stop driving. But yeah, so I come home, but I still have the brain fog. I still don't have any energy. And I started fermenting. And all of a sudden my gut clears up. Now, it's not ladylike to mention it, but I used to belch so bad that people thought a wild animal had gotten to them and that they needed to run. Like I've actually belched and people started running because they thought there was a bear. Like it's not cute and it didn't smell good. My intestinal digestive tract was all craps kind of effed up. Like I couldn't eat stuff. I couldn't process stuff. I would be having revolting throwing up in the back of my throat. I had lost my voice a number of times. I had the nasty, wicked dry cough. Like I was the poster child of severe GERD, and no, I wasn't going to the bathroom. So it was miserable still. So my body stopped spasming, but my internal stuff was jacked up until I started taking the kombucha and the ferments. So now I'm like, oh, this is taking care of my belly. I'm starting to feel cute. And that's also the time when I transitioned to vegan. When I started transitioning to vegan, all of a sudden my brain fog started clearing up. So this condition of not being able to concentrate that doctors label on late onset ADHD as something that I would need medication for, would never be able to get rid of, all of a sudden was rectified when I dropped dairy. Now, the importance of dropping dairy is huge because you have to understand, I went vegetarian when I was 14. So the entire time Bobanco has known me, I haven't had like a steak or a chicken or anything, right? I went from no shellfish, then I went to no fish. So by the time I went vegan, I had been 19 years without any kind of meat. But within 3 to 4 months of dropping dairy, cheese, eggs, milk, all of a sudden, all of these things that doctors have been telling me there's no cure for, you will always have this problem. You'll be lucky if you don't get worse. You really should let us cut into your head because, that's what we usually do. All of a sudden, all this stuff started clearing up. So now I did the yoga. I got stabilized in my body. Like he said, strength, more strength, more strength. I'm not having the hour-long wait in bed for my nerves to stop killing me because all of my nerves were saying to me in the mornings and wake me up in the middle of the night. Part of the exhaustion was just pain exhaustion, right? I was in chronic pain. My brain fog has cleared up and my stomach has worked because I adopted yoga, vegan. That's what got me through the end of school to be able to think through the end of school and actually graduate and stable enough to go to do the yoga. Yoga got me back on my feet. Again, doctors told me it was never going to happen. I don't mean one doctor. I mean 8 different neurosurgeons and about 4 different neurologists. And I don't mean quacks. I go to the tops of my field. I got good instruments. And then the ferment cleared up my digestive system, which in turn cleared up my immune system. So I no longer have the bronchial pharyngeal itis every year. I don't get sick. So I'm the only person I know within my immediate area, besides my dad, who only stays home and plays with his dogs. I didn't get COVID. I'm actually on the list. I'm on every list that you could think of that would say I should be more susceptible to COVID, but I ain't get COVID.
We're knocking on wood, us too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Keep it going.
Yeah. And my wife did travel to Lebanon, so she flew all the way there and back and didn't get anything. So we've been negative, but yes, awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, and at the end of the day too, that's a big message for folks. I think is immunity, figuring out what your immunity, how to improve your immunity, should prevent some of these concepts. And to me, that ties into my definition of fitness is the fitter you are, and that's not just amount of push-ups you can do and how far you can run. Fitness includes your immune system. So, again, when we define like who's fitter, we brought up Carlos and Frederica before they commented, and like who's fitter, if we looked at their overall body, it's not just about who can lift more weight or who can run further. It's also how good do you feel in the morning? You mentioned brain fog. You mentioned all these other things that are involved with our health. And to me, again, when I talk to folks about all this, it's how good are you going to feel when you're 90? How good are you going to feel 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if you have this issue? And again, that's where it's like, how much would you pay? Would you pay me $5,000 right now? I know it's a lot of money, but like if I can pretty much guarantee that we're going to fix your back pain and you won't have back pain again, like for a long time, because we're really going to go dig into it and go through the whole process. Like, is that worth $5,000? Or are you going to end up spending more than $5,000 through your insurance, through your own out of pocket, through the time and pain, and you're just going to make it worse, and the surgery you're going to get, and like, and again, I'm not trying to fear monger people either with all this stuff, but
it's not necessary.
That's my whole mission.
Like even to the point now where people are taking so many things for depression and anxiety. Number one, I've developed antidepressant herbal kombucha, right? And it works very well to the point where one of the people who was taking my kombucha because her medicine got delayed, got told by her doctor that my kombucha was too strong. She had to choose either she was doing the medicine and could get like her medical documentation that she had a certain condition going on mentally, or she could continue taking my kombucha. So she's back on the medication. But what people need to understand is that on those days when my job is driving me crazy and I've been in the front of the computer for 11 and a half hours, like I'm hitting now, and I need a moment, I don't have time to get on the mat for 15 and 20 minutes to do some work. I don't have time to do breathing. I have to be on. I literally go outside and stick my hands in the dirt. Like, I start playing with the plants and I come back in, and with the 5 minutes, I'm rejuvenated, I'm refreshed, because all energy is shared. There's nothing in physics that says that energy and particle reaction is determinant upon whether it's human or plantae or bacterial. all energy is made up of this movement. And when you connect to something that is moving harmoniously, you start moving harmoniously because your energy is absorbed and radiated. And so even if you have no interest in plants, even if you have no other need to be healthy, you feel great, you look great, great. Get you a plant if you tend to get stressed and you need something to stick your hands into and feel that living, thriving, beautiful energy that we are all connected to. We just need a reminder sometimes.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff. You would have gotten along with my mother. You guys could have been best friends. Growing up, I had asthma actually as a kid too. And she was all into the herbal stuff. And it was propolis, was a big one. And ginkgo biloba, I think was another one, an herb, and she would always make me. And yeah, she would like, oh, you have a little cold coming on, like boom, let's make the herb tea, a little mix of everything she had. So, and I was like, can I just have some Benadryl or like some NyQuil? People, yeah. When I got to Tech, everyone on the football team was like, you got to take NyQuil, man. I'm like, what is that? So I was that hippie kid, I guess, to some extent. But there's truth to it. There's absolutely, and to your energy point, I think there's having a dog for me, especially out here in Southern California. The petting the dog, being connected to that like energy of love and like that unconditional love and everything. But yeah, it gets you out into nature. You got to take walks. I'm picking up poop on a daily basis, but I'm not going to touch the grass next to the poop per se, but there's something there. But I do. So this is another thing, and this is in the health field or whatever. If you're into the space, if you take a flight, and again, I know right now COVID and everything, a lot less flights going on, but or a car trip, like get out, and as soon as you can get onto Earth, like undo the damage of being in the radioactive like plane for the last 10 hours, wherever you're flying to, and get and touch grass, touch earth, touch that, like, and it changes your energy, changes your mood. And tend to this where, again, I think we lose touch with this stuff. And again, there's this interesting line of like, oh, it's hippy dippy stuff versus like, no, like this is something we all grew up with. And I did one other one that I was interrupting you before. I forgot to interrupt you on this one. Is the bacteria, and this is super interesting. And I'm actually reading a book called Healthy Gut, Healthy You. I don't know if you've heard of that one by Dr. Michael Ruscio. And he brings up again that, and this is something very common again in most folks who understand or getting this whole concept about the gut microbiome. And we're seeing it now with COVID, and again, I haven't gotten a knock on wood, all that good stuff, but I'll say I'm not like, oh no, I touched something, I need to get hand sanitizer and all that, because we're going into
COVID is a virus, not a bacteria, so it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's the whole yeah, and also like it doesn't cause diarrhea, so why are we hoarding toilet paper? I don't know. Anyway, but whatever, human survival, power mechanism, psychology, bobbity bop. But
massive capitalistic structure.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is allergies that we've seen a rise in allergies recently is strongly connected to this lack of exposure to bacteria in our environment, and our immune system is growing.
Yeah, I had a ton of food allergies before. I started fermenting within 6 months. I could eat everything again.
Yeah.
I'd been allergic to pineapple since I was in grade school.
Did you have steak?
Huh?
Did you have steak?
Ew, who wants that?
Why?
Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
But that's my question is like, how do you know what would happen if you had some, bison liver? I'm just, organ meats.
There have been times where people have gotten some eggs past me. My body don't like it. I can guarantee you.
That's an egg, and I don't know how the egg was raised.
That's true.
Again,
the brain fog that came immediately after is nothing to joke with.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. And again, you're tuned into a lot of these things, and what I again find in health coaching and working with folks on their food and things like that and improving quality is most people don't realize how sick they are. And again, it's not to be like, you're all doomed and I'm the only one who can fix you. Which sometimes, there's people out there doing that stuff. But yeah, I mean, back to that point, and another part that he brings up that I was reading the other day is antibiotics, which again is a fantastic thing if you have a really severe infection, but it kills a lot of the healthy biotics, if you will, that are in our body. And if you are a grown-up and you have to take, or you're in, you end up taking a series of antibiotics, make sure, again, maybe speak with your doctor, but take a probiotic. So you're kind of balancing out at least and rebuilding your bacteria. But what the book was talking about is giving an antibiotic to someone under 1, you're pretty much eliminating those strains of bacteria for the rest of that child's life, and now setting them up to be much more allergic to all these other things, peanuts and eggs and coconut and whatever. I'll also say that a lot of folks going to get allergy testing, there's it's shaky science. It's a lot, I would say, again, these are legitimate laboratories doing it. There's a lot of insurance and everything. But again, if somebody tells you you're allergic to eggs and soy and whatever, it might be true. But I'm not super convinced that a lot of those laboratories are 100% accurate.
I would say this. You don't have to be convinced of the science of what I or Dr. Bo are talking about, but you can try stuff. Yeah. So he mentioned probiotics. He's probably talked about it a lot on the podcast, so I won't go into it. But basically, ferments are the homegrown 1,000-year-old methodology of producing pro and prebiotics, right? They want you to buy the little bottles. It costs about 50 times more to buy the bottles versus to buy the ferment. And what happens is you can go ahead and try some ferments. I call my ferment stinky good for you. Just close your nose and shove them down and see if your problems start ameliorating on their own. Or you can just keep trusting the doctor who hasn't been working for you and go by them saying science.
Right. What they're chasing is symptoms. And, again, you might not even realize your brain fog is what it is. And most people don't even know that term per se.
Which is why one of the first things I tell my clients is I need you to keep a journal of how you feel when you wake up, how you feel at midday, and how you feel at evening. And I need you to do this during our entire process because I do one-to-one client work. And we address everything: body, breath, food, and soul, because I do spiritual restoration as well. And as they progress, they're making this direct correlation to what things they are no longer waking up with and how they're no longer feeling when they're falling asleep, even down to their emotional responses to things and their emotional disposition upon waking up.
Right.
So you do need to become more aware, even if you're jotting down 4 words in the morning.
Yeah, for sure. Awareness.
If you're not aware, how can you tell the doctor what's going on with you?
Right. But that's the thing, is not everyone has that guidance to understand awareness. There's a big push to mindfulness and things like that, and meditation, and some of it's breathing. But yeah, if you don't have an intention or an understanding around, or again, like even it's taboo to talk about how many times should you be pooping a day? What should your poop look like? Things like that. So these are conversations that we need to have for sure. I did have one other thing. Yeah, so how easy is it to make your own kombucha? I know that you get a bacteria, it's basically a tea, right? You ferment it there. It's fermenting the sugar.
Yeah. So you get a pellicle, right? A lot of people think that the mother, which is like basically a mass amalgamation of bacteria that have learned to cling to each other, and it forms like this as white film. That's called your mother or your pellicle. And you boil some tea and you mix the sugar in so that it stays suspended after it cools, because if you mix it after, the sugar just drops down to the bottom. And then you cover it with something that's breathable, because kombucha is actually an aerobic fermentation.
Do you have a video where you go through this process? So it's going to be. I would recommend
There's
you
a billion
do that.
of them. There's a
Yeah.
billion.
So
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
But we want them from you.
Okay, I will make a video on kombucha because I was almost done. It's literally just put it in there when it's cool.
I got it. But I'm not. I mean, if I listen to a lot of podcasts, if I just heard all this, like, I'm not going to go back and go step by step on what you just said. When I'm actually doing it, when I have it there, I want to be able to, like, me personally, at least, I'm all for it. I've never done it. I'll be honest. I know a lot of people in where I grew up in the Russian community. A lot of folks actually did that. My mother, I don't think ever did that. I think she would like buy a kombucha here and there. One other thing I'll say too is a lot of the kombuchas for purchase, like you said, they're way more expensive. They're like 50 times more what it would cost to kind of make it on your own. But like a lot of other things, the convenience factor and like the like, am I doing this right? Once you learn how to do it, I think it's much easier. But I guess the question is, what I was going to say is, sorry, a lot of the kombuchas that are commercially available tend to have a lot more sugar than anyone needs in their lives. So it's I think there's much better ones. Obviously, some of that is so that it's more palatable, and you're more likely to, kind of a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down, or supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, whatever that is, Mary Poppins. But anyway, the idea here is I'm all for it. I want to do it. So I don't know if I'm going to do it. I haven't really announced this too much in too many places. So anyone watching this, you get the scoop. But we're actually moving from Southern California to Colorado by March 1st. So we're making that move to be in a little more nature. Yeah, a little more access to nature, things like that. But when we get settled there, I plan to have a mother starter and have that going. And the cool thing with that, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that I understand is you can basically recycle that, and you only need one mother. You just have to know how to, again, like, kind of take care of it. But it creates the whole, however much it creates, and then you then can put it in like another bottle or whatever, and you just keep it going. So you just need one starter, so to speak. Everyone, I think, also during lockdown has been making like sourdough bread, so they might understand a little bit about, some of that stuff. But anyway, what else you got?
So yoga ferments kombucha. I will say this for the times when, because I do have one of my genetic conditions explained why I injured so easily. So I developed joint specific ferments, basically riding off of curcumin and broccoli. It just major well. So I do fermented broccoli for joints and fermented broccoli mixed with other stuff for energy. I've played with stuff that helps people with their gout. I've had stuff that helps people. I have another one, my Big Red, that helps people with lupus and other autoimmune diseases. I mean, you can do so much with ferment. It just requires a little study and a little play.
Yeah.
Or you can buy it from me.
Or you could do that. Do you have a store online?
Yeah, so my store will be up by, I think, mid-February, February 15th. I'm going to call it.
We're recording this January 25th. So you got, what is that, like 20 days? No biggie.
Yeah, no biggie. Healthy for purpose.
Ready for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, get your gut right for your boo so you don't have to be all stinky and embarrassed.
Healthy for purpose, yeah.
Healthy for purpose. And if people were wondering, I lost like 60 pounds when I went vegan. I stay disgustingly skinny now. Like, I'm big, thick, and luscious. And then now it's like, I'm one of those skinny bees. But yeah. But I tell people this stuff because I want them to understand everything that I do and that I help people with in coaching, the ferments that I sell, the yoga that I do, you can learn, you can repeat on your own without paying anybody a dime. If you need coaching, contact me, contact people like Dr. Bo who are in touch with actual whole body systems. It's really hard at this point in my life to take doctors who only look at one part of the body seriously.
Yeah. You mentioned the gout real quick. Have you seen some of the research on specifically tart cherries and gout? You know about that?
I'll be telling the ingredients in my stuff. Don't be shouting it out.
Well, anyone who might have gout or joint issues or wants to improve their sleep, back, especially when I was a triathlete and training a lot, I was told about this, and I would drink a full bottle from a company called Cherry Bundy, and it was 8 ounces, and it would have 45 cherries in the bottle. That was pretty much it. I think they added some apple juice to make it more palatable, but basically I would drink that every day. I was like, never have any issues, but from what I understand, and I've introduced it to a few people who mentioned they had gout or some version of it, and again, just drinking tart cherry juice straight up is pretty powerful stuff. So again, like, there's definitely, let food be thy medicine. For sure. I'm not here to 100% argue with you or anyone on eating oysters or organ meats or really regenerative farmed grass finished steaks, things like that.
It's certainly better for the planet, because right now they're cutting down forests for these mass production farms, or cutting down the forest for their feed. So even if you go and get the natural route of the big farm only has 10 cows, they're still feeding you from those forests.
Right. Here's a question for you. What's your take on the Impossible Burger or Beyond Meat, any of that stuff? That's the face I make too. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun, but I'm very picky with my fake meat brands. It's all about the processing. The same reason why some meat is bad for you is the same reason why some of these Impossible meats and stuff would be bad for you. I have certain products where I smell it and I start getting nauseous. My body's like, you're not going to do well with that.
Right. And what I'll say real quick is a lot of those Beyond Meat, Impossible Burger, plenty of research and plenty of clear science showing that they do more harm to the environment than traditional factory farming. Regenerative farming, what I'll say for those not familiar, and there's plenty of great resources for that, is actually carbon negative, meaning it is actually healing the environment when done properly. Unfortunately, a lot of those farms are not few and far between, but they're just small. They tend, in order to run it properly, they're relatively small. There was just a film that came out for those who've seen Game Changers and Forks Over Knives and all that propaganda nonsense that I think is just should be banned from Twitter, like some other things.
Don't hate.
It's not hating. It's scientifically, like, I can go through the whole thing. Anyway,
there's been so much propaganda on the other end. We deserve a little propaganda.
There's been almost no propaganda from regenerative.
About a meat world? Are you seriously saying there's no propaganda about a meat world?
From regenerative farming.
Stay in a safe place. Stay in a safe place.
What's this? No, I'm not trying to defend factory farming where it's millions of cows piled on top of each other. No, I'm not defending that. I'm going to be very clear. What I'm defending is, again, regenerative farming, which tend to be small, family run. Like it's me running a farm, and I have to put in the work, and it's a lot of work. And a lot of those are not very profitable because people are buying more factory farming. So the other thing I'll say to anyone listening is vote with your dollars. If you like meat, spend a little more on these, again, really good farms. I'll throw out a few real quick. Is Bel Campo out here in the West Coast. There's US Wellness Meats, which delivers nationwide, which I order from. And Salatin Farms, Joel Salatin, he has a bunch, and he actually helps teach these techniques of regenerative farming. So I think you're at least on board with regenerative farming, whether you want to eat meat yourself or not. Yes.
Yes.
At least we can say that.
Regenerative farming goes beyond that whole thought. It has to do with soil restoration and habitat restoration.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, they're putting thought into cycling the animals, and they treat the animals as humanely, I think, as possible. If you're into, if you're not eating meat because you're just ethically opposed to eating an animal, a life form, all that stuff, that's a different conversation. But in terms of the effects on the environment, I think that, again, regenerative farming, what I was going to say is there's been very little propaganda for good quality farming. I don't know too much propaganda that's going on for that. Yes, the meat lobby certainly has plenty of propaganda, all that good stuff. The vegan, though, I think is again, I'll just say this about what's this, Game Changers, is it was produced by James Cameron. His wife happens to own a pea protein company that, a lot of money in there. It was very well produced. And again, I will go through with you if you want on a call. I have a video on my YouTube channel that 15 minutes where I will literally go through scene by scene and tell you why that is just absurd to even think about or talk about or bring up. However, I do understand how it gets somebody to be like, oh, that's an interesting point. And at the end of the day, if you're moving in the right direction, cool. But what I will say for anyone who's switching to just vegetarian veganism, it's easy to jump on fads. What I've seen is get your blood checked, do it the right way, talk to someone who's done it before. If your B12 is deficient, if your D3 is deficient, if your iron is deficient, all these things can happen. Again, a lot of people go on these diets where they eliminate a lot of processed foods, and that's great. And they feel good for a period. Hi, Kate.
And then they go into deficiencies. Mm-hmm.
And then, down the line, there's so many of these stories where for some people it takes 6 months. For some people, it might take 5 years. But they're just like, oh, now you're like, all your organs are shutting. And again, I'm not trying to scare people, but
you need to know, you need to do your research, and you really should talk to somebody who's living a healthy vegan lifestyle. I said it earlier, there's 30,000 different plants. Yep. Ideally, you should be getting 15 to 40 different types of plants in your diet a week. Right. Most of us go by like the top 8 that we see in our American grocery stores. And that's also a reason why our gut biomes are so depleted, because we're only getting the little bit of bacteria off of those few different types of plants. Yes. But I want to say this because I have to pick at you. Okay. You don't hear about people with gout with being vegan.
Yeah. Again, the thing,
I know you're not against veganism. I'm just picking at you.
Well, no, I'm like 90% against veganism. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it is possible to be a plant-based person, a vegan, a vegetarian. It's very possible. However, I don't agree that it is the optimal diet. I will say, though, to a lot of your points, and I will always say this, is to your, even if it's placebo, which that's not placebo, but at the end of the day, if that's what works for you, and that's just like, it's easier, because yes, understanding good quality meat and going out of your way to get good quality meat is tough. So like I stay very healthy. I try to eat as healthy as I can. I allow a lot more than I should unhealthy or lower quality meats into my body, which I'm not thrilled with. However, I try to do as best I can to get the best quality meat and wild caught sardines and like these different things where smaller fish like a sardine is going to have less mercury, less toxins, chemicals than a big piece of, even if it's wild caught salmon, it's going to have less pollutants in it, and that's better for my body. So the fish, like, little complicated. If you're out there, if you're watching this, again, make sure, and again, that's why it bothers me when people are like, I saw forks over knives, and it's like, I'm ready to go vegan. I'm like, okay, well, hold on.
But wait, I've been asking people something very simple, and this will actually help the world, and it will not harm your body, no matter how much you really don't understand about being vegan. If you went on a plant-based diet 4 days out of every week, you would do a massive voting with your dollars against destruction of natural systems. Your body, I don't care if you're the biggest meat eater or not, you don't need meat every day to sustain your nutrient content, especially if you're eating a good variety of plants. And 4 days a week, plant-based would drive down the market value of meat infrastructures by over 50%, which means, it's very simple math.
Well, no, but what I was going to say is not to cut you off. Is they tried Meatless Mondays. That's something they've tried.
Right. But Meatless Mondays is 1 day a week. And let's face it, Meatless Mondays was more like Meatless Monday lunch.
But what I was going to say is people are not giving it, that was a huge push. There was TED Talks, there was politicians, there was, all this stuff behind it.
And now we're 8 years from the climate cliff, right, where these double negative feedback systems, which is comprised of both the acidification of the oceans and the rising temperature of the oceans, meeting each other, so that the icebergs are melting almost 200 years ahead of time. Right. Those models that they put out 20 years ago went out the window because we didn't actually make the changes that needed to be made. So now when people are like, well, I really like my burger, I hear you really don't care whether or not your child gets to the age you are now when you like your burger. Because People will be able to survive after the cliff. We're not saying that all of the world ends at 2030. What we're saying is we will be in an ecological state where it will be so bad that humans won't be able to live in the conditions we're creating by 2050.
Right.
Unless you have a lot of money. And I'm talking a lot of, I build spaceships and I do these tours for fun to the moon money. You won't be able to have enough income to buy the food you need, have the HVAC system clearance you need, and or produce electricity in a safe way. We need to stop thinking with our tongues, be grown-ups, and find some good chef YouTubes and start some different.
Well, that's where I go back to let's vote with your dollars for sure. Start to minimize factory farming as much as possible. But again, I think I again appreciate what you're saying, but I think it's a little like, not to say it's too extreme. I don't mean to say it that way, but like it's and I agree with you. Like if everyone were to be like, okay, cool, like we're in, like we're gonna listen. But my point, the reason I brought up Meatless Mondays is because again, it made sense. It was brought up, and like that was a really good push. But some schools have adopted it and forced it upon people, which again then becomes this kind of cycle of
I can learn that I don't need meat to survive.
No, the cycle of like people not feeding their children and not understanding. And again, this is where I see, and it stands out to me, of the other extreme of babies becoming malnourished because their vegan parents are not providing them with anything other than, you're just going to get 5 varieties of plants and like you're good.
Education is needed. Education is needed.
So the point, the only thing I want to say is there's right ways to do it. The nuance of is not like all meat. That's the problem I have with these documentaries. It becomes all meat is devil, is bad.
I'm giving you 3 days of the week where you can still do your tacos, your vegan, your veggie sausage, and your steak at night. I'm just saying that the chances of you going nutrient and vitamin deficient because
I agree with you. I agree with you. But I 100% agree with you. But most people don't understand nuance. Most people don't understand it. And like again, I appreciate that it's 4 days. And I agree that you're not likely going to go malnourished or anything like that. Again, if you understand all these other concepts, but there's a lot to understand. And again, most people are coming from eating what, like Chipotle maybe because they're trying to do something healthy. What else? Like I went to the local taco cart, like it's Taco Tuesday. Like what, all these different things but it's taking you from being on the couch and not doing anything to running a marathon is a big thing. And there's many different ways to do it.
Right. And, I'm a climate activist. And the reason why I pushed the veganism isn't because I'm personally a vegan and it's helped my body so phenomenally and changed my life. It's because I know for a fact as a professional that the other methods are actually harder. Are you going to lobby the plastics industry for end-to-end manufacturing where they know what they're going to do with plastic waste and toxic plastic material before they manufacture it? Are you going to get into the carbon tax arguments and actually lobby your senators and your congressmen on both the state and federal level? Are you going to actually go out and clean up your beaches and clean up your streets? And are you going to do riparian border repairs, and which are the areas beside your waterways, which are so vital for our environmental health? Are you going to go and replant diverse trees, not just trees to be cut down, but trees, bushes, and flowering plants to rehabitat a destroyed ecosystem? Like when I tell people, okay, give up meat 4 days a week, I'm literally telling them, here's an actionable, easy, cheaper way to live for 4 days out of your week, or you can spend 5 to 6 to 20 to 30, because it grows as you get passionate, hours a week, lobbying, changing your lifestyles, transferring, changing the way you do transportation, changing the way you save food, because are you going to use the plastic baggies anymore? Changing what brands of clothes you buy and what brands of furniture and whether or not you shop from this different corporation. Like, are you going to do all of that, or are you willing to just stop eating meat for 4 days a week and be impactful?
Or you can get regenerative farmed meat, which is carbon negative. And in fact, again, you're supporting.
I don't want to go into the science of carbon negative, but a lot of times what they consider carbon negative is that they actually don't count the carbon that's released on the front end, because they want to be able to allow credit for the counting the carbon that's released on the back end after the farming practice. And then they don't talk about where the feed is coming from usually, which is one of the things.
Well, again, that's one of the reasons I brought up like the Impossible Burger and things like that too. Because again, that's where if you tell people don't eat meat for 3 days, they're like, okay, well, 2 of those days or 3 of those days, the days I'm not eating meat, I'm gonna have the Impossible Burger because I really like meat or whatever. But the Impossible Burger again might be more harmful, or any of these other like vegan alternatives are processed so much that they're just as harmful, if not more harmful. And again, like I feel like we're just arguing, we're gonna keep going with this. But at the end of the day, if you're ready to make a change, there's many different ways to do it.
And you can contact me about all the ways you're interested in, because I could plug you in with nationwide organizations.
There you go. Yes. So I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Yes, for sure. So yeah. So as long as we're open and like, again, if I'd love to know more, I think it's past the, we've already gone over an hour, but like of what carbon neutral is. I was going to say there is a documentary, which, oh shoot, I can't think of the name of right now. I'll have to link it in the show notes. That was recently put out. About, again, a lot of these regenerative farms as a kind of a counter to Game Changers. But my point, it wasn't produced by James Cameron with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jackie Chan, who again have financial interest. But it wasn't put out there with that. So it's not gonna have the production value or the like showmanship. And again, I definitely, anyone who wants to fight me on Game Changers, let's go. And again, that doesn't mean plant-based is wrong, but to me, it's a really inauthentic way to present it, to say this guy beat Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor eats steaks, and this guy is plant-based, which again, they don't mention that he eats eggs and fish, but whatever. They present him as plant-based and he beat Conor McGregor. They're not telling the story of how Conor McGregor was supposed to fight another guy, and that guy dropped out, and then Conor McGregor had to lose 20 pounds so they could be in the same weight class as this other guy, and then he lost, and then they had a rematch, and Conor McGregor beat him, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway.
Okay, you hate the documentary, but the fact is...
It's not a documentary. It's not, you don't even call it that. It's a film.
You hate the docudrama. You hate it. But it's the hundreds of thousands of people who have gotten rid of diabetes.
No, hundreds of thousands of people because of the documentary?
No, not the documentary. I'm talking about becoming vegan. People
okay.
And no longer have to take diabetes medication. No longer having.
Send me the research and statistics on that one, because again, I agree that a lot of times it moves people in the right direction, but again,
your blood chemistry changes in the way you process things.
I understand. I agree with you. I think it's generally a move in the right direction. I would love to see the statistics on that or some kind of research before putting statements like that out there, because I've never seen any research around that. And again, when it comes to nutrition, unfortunately, humans are human, and they tend to, even if they're going vegan, find ways to, I'm going to have this vegan, whatever, cashew butter, cashew cheese. And especially when it comes to diabetes, because most people, again, I'm not saying you, but a lot of people I know can be vegan and still find ways to be very unhealthy. It's very possible.
It's very easy. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
I used to live off of bread.
Yeah. So, but again, when you say hundreds of thousands of people, again, if I have to, so no, hold on.
So there's so many people who have gotten rid of things like diabetes, basic autoimmune deficiencies, cloudy brain, gut disturbances. Gut disturbances can still continue if you're not, not holistic.
But there's so many people who can do that with simple modifications by simply removing bread and continuing to do everything else they're doing. They can simply remove dairy and do everything else they're doing. They can simply remove maybe legumes or red peppers or eggplant and do everything else they're doing.
Because they have microallergies.
Yeah. So
or
my,
you can
my
just,
point,
or
my
you can
point
reset
is,
your system. My point is, you're not going to get me to let you finish by talking down veganism. You just got to let it go, Bo. Okay, you're going to have to let it go.
I'm not talking. But I'm not talking down veganism. I am talking down forks over knives and game changer. But
yeah, I don't care about that. I
okay,
don't care about methodology. I only care about what
but
works.
you brought it up and you tried to like
I
champion
didn't bring
it.
up game changers. You did that.
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, again, I'm not saying veganism is wrong. I'm not saying, and I said this, like, but it, because me working with many humans has shown me that when you make it simply, if I had to choose, which would I rather you do? Go vegan or come up with an individualized approach that allows you to eat better quality meat and organ meats and all this other stuff and get better sense of which foods are da-da-da. Which would I rather you do? 100%. Get a coach, do the right thing 1 million times out of a million.
Yeah, and the people and my clients are not necessarily induced to go vegan. We do full meal plans.
Sounds like it.
I tell them if it would benefit them, but they're not required to go vegan. I've only had one person that are required to go vegan. That's because she wanted me to require it of her. And it's just the way I think about it is I think about my food the way I think about my religion. I got involved with God not because people beat me over the head with the Bible growing up that actually tore me away, and not because I needed some crutch to lean upon. I got involved with God because I was touched and affected by the presence of God in my life. And so I am passionate about my eating habits for the same reason. I had spent over 35 years being told that my sickness was going to be for the rest of my life, that my chronic pain, where they were insisting that I should be taking, morphine-like pills every day.
Right.
I mean, syrups, actually. They were syrups, right?
100%.
That's the why I'm so passionate about it. I'm not saying that everybody has to do what I do. I'm saying that people should be informed about people like me so that they know that there's an option and they don't have to give up and they don't have to go under the knife and they don't have to just live in this malaise of never feeling like they were their best selves, and those good sunny days are far and in between.
100%. I'm 100% with you, but again, I'm only the research just isn't. I'm a man of science, so the research, unfortunately, generally
has not been. A lot of it hasn't been done.
No, research for the most part is not good when it comes to nutrition, especially because it's very difficult to do. It's very observational. It's very hard. So again, but what they have found, what they've shown, even when you talk about the blue zones. So if you talk about, you're familiar with the blue zones, they look for the cities and the cultures that have the people who live to 100 centenarians and just general length of life and quality of life. And for the most part,
they're heavily plant-based or entirely plant-based.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, the blue zones are heavily or entirely plant-based. Oh, that one you can look up.
No,
you can Google that.
I've looked into it.
Yeah, except for Eskimo societies.
Eskimo is not one of the blue zones, though.
But we'll see.
Well, no, but they've also shown they have shown in Eskimo societies where, but this is the other point too, is humans, depending on where you're from and everything like that, will say, I do want to put that in there, is have significant variance depending on your genetics and things like that you mentioned. Eskimos do whatever it was, 80% of certain populations that are Eskimo based, 80% of their diet is whale fat because that's what they have access to. So but they have very low heart disease. They have very low, so you can make all these connections and things like that. Blue zone specifically, though, again, I've looked at a lot of what they put out there. It's not a definitive study by any means. I was bringing it up because they have one drink a night, except for Loma Linda, which is generally Seventh-day Adventists, and they don't drink. But for the most part, it's the combination of all these things. And when they look at the diet, though, they're not really plant-based. they again, how do you define plant-based is another thing, because if it's at least 50% of your food is plants, then cool. Like I would say for the most part, I'm a vegan who eats a lot of meat because I love vegetables. I eat a lot of vegetables. I definitely understand the importance of eating vegetables. So I'm a vegan or vegetarian who eats a whole lot of meat and eggs and fish.
No, you can. Plant-based is usually defined as 70 to 80% of your diet is coming from a plant source.
You don't even have a number. 70 to 80%. Give me
because there's so much there's so much.
I know.
That's why everybody has different definitions.
That's my point.
No, but what I'm saying is, right, like you said, with the blue zones, if we live the life, and another thing about the blue zones is their quality of life isn't just about their diet.
Right.
It's all the factors. Outside. It's about the fact that some of them grow a lot of
community. Ikigai. You know about the ikigai?
Who's the ikigai?
He's not the icky guy. It's a Japanese word, ikigai, because Okinawa is one of the 5 main blue zones. Do you know what that word means or no? That term? It means a purpose. So one of the 9 main components to extending your life that they talk about is this concept that the Japanese have this very unique word for, ikigai, but it's basically having a purpose. What happens in our American society here is most people retire and then they're playing golf. They don't have a job. Their kids don't call them. Their grandkids don't, so if they're not taking, and also in Japanese culture, it's very common for the elders to take time with the youth and they're teaching them things and they're respected. So the elders have this extended life because they have a purpose versus, again, what do we do here in America? For the most part, we put people in old folks' homes and like, good luck, but there's no purpose to that unless they have something internally where they're like, oh, I'm going to garden or, something. So anyway, we can
champion. But okay, so let's end on some common ground here. How about that? Okay. I'll say some things.
I'm look at this. I'm plant-based. Look at that.
Yes, you are. Your DNA is plant.
That's right.
You agree that eating plants is good for you?
There's some discrepancies there.
Really, eating plants is good for you? You're gonna have some. Bob.
Well,
that's all I said was eating plants are good for you, Bob.
For the most part. And again, well, again, I don't like absolutes. I don't like absolutes. No, but I'll say the reason I'm pushing back a little bit is, again, there's FODMAPs, there's autoimmune things, there's allergies. So some people, again, and it's also the way even a lot of the plants that are produced, even if they're organic, are produced poorly. So again, red pepper, lentils, things like that can be very inflammatory for a lot of people. So
I wasn't talking about saying only plants. I just said eating plants in general.
But that's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying. Again, it's like saying veganism is good for you. It's like there's a lot of ifs, and so I won't concede that.
But would you say that eating plants is bad for you?
It's all relative. So look, again, I'm all for eating as much of a variety of plants as possible, but understanding what.
All I said was eating plants. I didn't say how much. I didn't say when.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is I don't like. It's like saying, do you believe in God or not? Like, to me, it's not a yes/no question. There's nuance. Like, I'm going through my journey. I'm going through my process. Like, it's not yes or no to me. So it's not as easy as and with when it comes to eating, plants are good for you. Again, what types of plants? Like, there's so much nuance to it.
But some things are just so simple.
But it's not that simple to me.
It is.
No.
No. It's like saying, is drinking water good for you?
Not always, because if you're filtering the water,
but you literally require water.
I understand, but my point, but you're not. But you're making it yes, no. I'm aware. I'm not saying being hydrated isn't good for you. It's about how you phrase it. Because drinking water, if it's filtered and it has no minerals in it. And I was going to ask you about the Zac Efron thing, because did you see that whole thing on Netflix? Down to Earth?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, he talks about this in the water. They have the water, whatever, connoisseur, sommelier, the water sommelier. But anyway, but the basic point there about water is if you're drinking this kind of, again, processed water and you're putting it into your body, it can actually pull some of the nutrients out of your body. Yeah. So I used, as an example of that, I used to work at the New York City Marathon finish line, and people would come across the line and collapse. And I would say, did you drink water? I stopped at every water station. I had so much water. Well, what happened is you got all of the sodium out of your body because you sweat. And and I'd literally take little salt packets out of my pocket and throw it in their throat. And they'd be like, I can see light and color again, because they had no salt. So anyway, water is not always, is it good to drink water? Sure. But again, everything has nuance. And
everything has nuance, but certain things are required.
You need to be but that's the point, is the terminology. So you need to be hydrated.
Can you get hydrated all of your life with something other than water? Could you live without water?
What do you like? What?
I'm getting into the finer points. I don't feel like getting into the finer points. Look, because that's not who I am. Look,
but my point is, you could drink. But you don't have you can get hydrated from eating an apple. You're getting,
but not for all of your life.
What? Well, like
if you were forced to live off of the water, of the hydration quality of eating apples and never drinking another drop of water in just its pure H2O form.
But if you got all of you, but like a cucumber is 97% water. So like,
and it's great for cooling your body. Cucumber and watermelon are better than any vitamin water that you can buy and store to cool your body during the summer.
Right.
But you still need to drink water. Yes, you can survive by going in a desert.
I'm not arguing against drinking water.
Then why did you just say yes? You need water
because it's complicated. I want people to understand when I'm talking to people.
You've considered all the options.
I try to make sure they understand, and like, it's not overbearing, but at the same time, again, understanding that they're like, again, when in 2020, certainly like put me into more of this framework of, it's not just, are you pro-life or pro-choice? It's not just that. Like, it's not, you can't just, it's not just, are you red or blue team? It's not just that. Like, and if I'm anti-red, all of a sudden, oh, you have to be blue. No, like, I'm just a person who's saying you're a freaking psycho. Like, that, the thing you're thinking doesn't make any sense. Not you. QAnon per se, I'm okay to call them out, but I'm like, Hillary Clinton, I don't think is eating babies. I'm sorry. Like, for you to genuinely think that, like, I don't know how we got here. But we're here.
You're the leader. I follow. Or I will say this, because I'm over hour 12 now of my day.
Okay.
But it's been fun. All I will say is, I
17-hour fast here. I'm just going to throw that in there. But
I fast regularly. I actually do a 3-day immune system restart every month. It keeps my immune system and my autoimmune system like that.
We'll have to jump back and talk about some of that stuff, because I've been playing with it. I haven't been very consistent with it, but
nah, man, you straight. You straight. So all I will say is, if you are hurting, if you are sick, if you are confused, if you are tired, if you are at the point where your doctors are trying to label you psychosomatic, if you are starting to believe that you are psychosomatic, take the time to do what has worked for so many people and honestly give it a try with guidance. And the guidance is especially important. Bo said it earlier. If you pay $200 for a person like myself or him, it's going to give you a lot more of your life back than trying to go buy what your insurance will pay for. Because if they've been running you around this long, they're probably going to keep running you around. And it might not even be out of malice or greed. They just might not.
It's the system. It's the system. Yeah, I think, again, I talk a lot of trash about the healthcare system. I don't think a lot of the folks are unwell-intentioned or malicious in any way. But that turmeric, though.
That's how I go through that stuff.
Yeah, so I don't think that they are malicious, to your point, for sure. But it's unfortunately the way the system's set up to keep you alive, to not be able to deal with the nuance. And that's, again, where it comes down to me for, like, is water good for you? Sure. And like, it's it should be a simple question. And again, I'm all for eating vegetables and drinking water, but like, I just want to, when I have those conversations and when I'm delivering a message to somebody who's trying to learn about health, I personally, and I'm not saying your message is wrong by any means, but like, I just want to get deeper into it. And I don't want to commit to, because when you say water is good or you say go vegan, there's these easily, again, I'll keep coming back to that concept of there's easily people falling into, this is what and it's just like, this is the thing. Okay, I need to be hydrated. I'm going to drink 300, ounces of water a day. And then you get what we call hyponatremia. And again, like, that's not good. And even if you're drinking the best water in the world, like it might not be good. So there's ways, it's understanding what to monitor. Like you said, paying attention to your brain fog. How do you feel when you wake up? Again, what's your body changing like? That's actually a sign of inflammation and constipation. Like, these are things that, again, people eat Indian food and they, it doesn't end well in the bathroom, and but nothing connects. And I'm not like trying to call people out, but it's just human nature. It's our lizard brain to not connect that, like, oh, like, I kind of know Mexican food or Indian food have these reputations for causing me to have gastric distress, but I still like it. I'm not going to change. And it's like, we need to have these conversations, these deeper conversations about, like, hey, maybe there's something in that's causing some like that you should not be putting into your body.
Or maybe I'm missing some bacteria in my gut that is not allowing me to process what I'm putting into my body.
Yeah. So there's a lot to it.
There's a lot, which is why my client intake takes an hour and a half.
There you go. That's
right. That's after you fill out the paperwork. That's me interviewing you after you fill out the paperwork, because it is nuanced. I'm not going to disagree with you on that. But all my thing is, because I work in communities where people have been taught not to take their body into consideration. They have been taught that there is no such thing as being too tired or too sick or too emotionally overridden to stop working or stop going to school or take a break or take care of yourself. So I'm working with people who don't value water, don't value vegetables, and don't value or understand what exercise can look like and feel like. And that's why my message is so simple, because I'm literally introducing this to people.
Sure. I 100% agree. More people need to get off the couch. More people need to drink more water. And again, drink water instead of a big gulp. Drink water instead of a soda. Like, it's starting where and meeting people where they're at. So on an individual level, for sure, for the majority of humans, for sure, we need to get them moving in the right direction. So that's it. I think we agree on that, and we'll wrap it up there. I appreciate the candor, and I think we can go for a few more hours for sure on some back and forth.
I'm not talking vegan with you no more. We could talk about the ground.
And that's what, and unfortunately that's what happens is I'll
talk to you about my organic no-till micro mini farm. How about that?
Sounds good. I do want to circle back at some point about the carbon negative thing, and maybe if you have some articles on that, would love to understand that better. But because as far as I know, a regenerative farm is so the documentary, by the way, if you're interested in getting some of the other propaganda side of the story, it's called Sacred Cow, and it's Rob Wolf and Diana Rogers, who are two of the top like paleo people, but they're, again, Sustainable Dish is Diana Rogers' brand, and they're again, it's not as well produced as Game Changers, and I know you're not necessarily shouting and advocating for Game Changers, but I would at least like people to watch. I would love for you to watch Sacred Cow and get back to me with your thoughts about, or is there stuff in there that they got wrong? Because again, to me, there's a lot of stuff that these other that Game Changers got wrong, and so I'll send you that link of me talking about that. And again, would love to hear your thoughts. And anyone watching, listening, please, yes, same thing. Share with us where you stand on this stuff, and it can be. It's crazy because veganism is probably, and vegan meat is probably more divisive than Republican, Democrat, or God and atheist and all that. So like, or different religions in general. Like, I feel like vegan versus meat eaters can be, as you can see, as you guys saw here for a little over an hour, gets intense. So I go back to the nuance points, and that's where I was going down when I brought up the political stuff of again, when you start talking to folks, it's nuanced. So that's my thing. That's my word for 2021 is going to be nuance, maybe. Anyway, where can people find you, my dear Reverend?
Oh God, I'm still learning on letting people find me.
Okay. Don't find her. No, don't.
No, find me Dallas Conyers on Facebook. I'll be back on social media in March. I took a break.
My dog doesn't like any of this.
Yeah. And healthy4purpose.com will be like like bro man from the fifth floor. Healthy for a purpose, because you all were created with a purpose. And so live and be healthy so that you can meet it and live it and love it. But that'll be up by mid-February, and healthy4purpose.com will allow you to have easy scheduling time with me, and also see a crap ton of videos of me talking about different things and doing some
I want to see the kombucha video soon.
You want to see the kombucha video?
I want to order some stuff from you, and I'm going to send you my 21-point virtual ortho checkup that I try to get every human being.
Yes, I was totally excited when you did that on the newsletter.
And if anyone wants to sign up to my newsletter, hit it down below. There should be a link somewhere. I'm also working on some of these things. Anyway, appreciate you. And we're going to wrap it up, guys. Check in with her, check in with me. Get healthy, get 1% better. Hopefully this conversation got you at least 1% better. Something good in there.
And at least 2.
At least 2. I 3. Let's not push it. Or it got you negative better because you're more confused now than ever. I don't know.
Which is why I don't do the nuance when I'm talking to new people. Lead them in.
There's processes to follow. If you follow a one-on-one coach, that's it. It's creating clarity. Just start. Get off the couch. Just start. I have a feeling the folks checking in here are not the ones who necessarily need us the most. But if they are, again, hit us up.
You know who do.
There you go. We're always happy to refer out to the people that need to, that we know can help you the most. So Lexi's barking. Time to go.
Time to go. Thanks, Bo. Good to see you.
You can stay on. We'll chat.